Hey guys, welcome to the show, 888-659-3727. I apologize for the late start, but we had a complete power outage. And luckily, the power went on about 30 minutes before the broadcast, so we had to do kind of a lot of fancy footwork to get everything up and running. We're only 6 minutes late. That's not so terrible. Anyway, let me give out the phone number, 888-659-3727. We do have some lines open if you want to call in. If you are new to the broadcast, don't know who I am, why I am here, I'm the hair loss guy. This is the bald truth. I am a consumer advocate for men and women who unfortunately are dealing with hair loss. I am the author of the most read volume on the prevention and treatment of hair loss in the world. The name of that book is called The Bald Truth. I'm also the author of The Truth About Women's Hair Loss, and I also happen to be the founder of the American Hair Loss Association. And we come here each and every week. I've been doing the show for almost 18 years, or is it almost 19? I forget. Since 1998, to talk about one thing and one thing only, and that is hair loss. How we deal with hair loss, how we try to treat our hair loss, how society looks at hair loss, what it's like to live a life as a hair loss sufferer. Now, if you're tuning in, never saw me before, this is the first time actually viewing me. You may have heard me on the radio or on iTunes radio or on Stitcher radio or one of the other audio sources. But if this is the first time you actually ever have seen my video or this video feed. I can't speak. This happens all the time. This stream. Yeah, I have hair on my head. And the reason I have hair on my head still is because I made some good moves. I was able to kind of look back and take a step back when I was younger and avoid some of the crazy pitfalls, some of the real terrible mistakes that sadly so many guys have made over the years and continue to make. Guys who may have jumped into surgery before they were even candidates. Guys who may not have done their research and decided to have surgery. People who have spent years kind of, using products and services that they read about in, on the internet that is not, they're not FDA approved products that actually work. We created this environment, this place, we call it a safe place for men and women who are dealing with hair loss to come and to talk and to share and to learn about something that society doesn't really allow us to talk about. So yes, if you're seeing me for the first time, and you're saying, why is this guy doing a hair loss show? He has hair on his head. Someone called in last week and basically said that's what people probably think. The truth is this is a quasi-sham. A lot of hairspray, quasi-comb over, paint the back of my head. I have tried and have worn partial hair systems, yarmulke style, systems. And I've done whatever I could to try to maintain the semblance of a full-looking head of hair. But the bottom line is it was FDA-approved medication that has really saved my hair, or most of it, or I would say really slowed the progression of my hair loss to a real crawl. And if you're new to the program, the drug that I take is Finasteride, also known as Propecia or Proscar. I happen to take the 5 milligram dose of Finasteride once a week, which is the Proscar pill, brand name. And that is my story. 888-659-3727. I want to say hi to Joe Tillman, who's hopefully holding on the line. Because we had the issues with the power, I had to kind of just hook up blindly with him. So let's see if he's there. Joe, you there?
I am here.
How are you, man?
I'm good.
So the show must go on. We did it.
I was sitting here wondering. I was listening to some good blues and watching you on screen with this look of intent concern. like you're trying to get things
trying to get the
put
shit,
together.
And trying to get the shit to work.
It came through. It worked.
Yeah. Well, it is. That's the guys in the chat room. Yes, it is TBT time. So we're here. Now, Joe, I don't know if you read the article that was circulating. It was actually a New York Post article about a hair transplant surgeon who claims that his practice is filled with teenage kids who are interested in surgical hair restoration. Did you read that?
I elected not to.
Okay, that's good.
I saw the headline.
Okay.
And I saw mention of it in a couple of places like Facebook and such, and I just didn't want to go there.
Well, I'm not going to get into the entire article. I'm not even going to talk about the physicians, talk about the doctor, because the truth is, I was contacted by a major European newspaper, and they asked me about this particular article, and I gave my thoughts. Now, the truth is, if anyone is new to the show, you guys have to understand that the vast majority of teenagers do not make great candidates for surgical hair restoration. There are exceptions to that rule, and those exceptions usually have to do with some sort of mechanical hair loss. Maybe if the patient was an accident victim or a burn victim, then hair transplantation might be a suitable procedure, cosmetic procedure in those instances. But when you're dealing with common male pattern baldness, especially aggressive male pattern baldness, if you start losing your hair as a teenager, it's going to be aggressive. Very few, in my view, learned or ethical, skilled hair transplant surgeons would perform surgery on a teenager. And there are, and I'm sure you agree with that, Joe.
I do agree with that. And one additional scenario where it could make sense, and it has made sense, is to repair the work that was done by a doctor that mistakenly and unethically took on that patient to begin with.
Right, that's a good point.
Which I've seen.
Yeah, that is a good point. Well, so the way that the Post made it out to be was that, it's teenage hair transplantation is on the rise. Parents are paying tens of thousands of dollars to help their children deal with hair loss. And this doctor is claiming that, this is a big part of his practice. Now, with all due respect to the doctor, I mean, he's a neograft guy. I've never heard of him before. I don't even know if he's even performing the surgery himself.
Well, look, there's so many out there now because of the neograft. How could you hear of them before?
Exactly.
Or all of them before, right?
Now, I just want to say, it looks like, and this happened last week with the phone system, people are trying to call in. The lights they blink for a second and they drop. So I don't know if we're having some sort of bizarre issue with the phone, but that just happened again. 2 lines lit and then they went off. And then at the start of the show, the same thing happened. So maybe if Andrew's listening or if Suncast is listening, if you can call the number, the 800 number, 888-659-3727, see if you can get through, I would appreciate it. So, yeah, I mean, that is, the scenarios that obviously the last scenario you just brought up is, that makes sense. But as far as this doctor is concerned, I made it clear to this reporter that there's no way in hell that this guy can actually know what he's doing. I cannot believe he would purposely and knowingly transplant young kids, knowing what the ramifications could be. So, in my view, it's probably has to do with this guy's lack of knowledge as opposed to him just being a bad guy. At least that's what I'm hoping.
Well, we can hope that, but then, I mean, this could also be a new niche that he's trying to cash in on, which is...
You're so fucking cynical, dude.
Well, like I have no reason to be? Come on. Yeah, it's born out of nothing.
I'm trying to be diplomatic. No, but you're right. You're right.
Well, it's like...
That's 100% correct. I chose not to take that route when I was being interviewed.
It's the... what's the phrase I'm looking for? It's like the rich kid syndrome. It's the latest fad. It's like, I don't know if it's still going on or recently or a couple years ago, it was like the big thing where teenage girls were getting boob jobs.
Yeah, but again, and that, to tell you the truth, that is still, I mean, it's not the greatest idea. I think a woman definitely needs to be, completely developed. But usually a woman is fully grown by about 16, 17 years old. So it's, I mean, they may not be psychologically ready to undergo the surgery, and they have to realize that boob jobs are not permanent. Those things have to be rotated eventually, like tires.
Right.
And it's kind of it's a lifelong commitment.
Do you do it by the side of the road with a jack iron? Or?
Actually, there are doctors who do that, probably like parts of Mexico and Colombia and places like that.
Yeah.
But nothing wrong with, there's some great doctors in those countries, by the way.
But
yeah.
Look,
but it is different.
Niche for like the latest thing is, you're cool if you get a hair transplant before your prom.
Yeah, but that's the sad thing is because hair transplantation is it's such a different procedure. Hair loss is progressive, and it's being sold like a rhinoplasty or like a boob job. So you're
Yeah,
absolutely right when you say that.
unfortunately.
Unfortunately, these kids are going to be they're being set up for a lifetime of hell. Even if it works, I told this reporter, I said, even if it works temporarily, forget about, let's take out the equation of, the strong possibility of shock loss because most of these teenagers still have a lot of hair.
Yeah.
And then you deal with the trauma of surgery, waiting that year for the hair to grow. Even if the guy gets a good year or two and he's able to slow the progression of his hair loss, if he's even too young to get on medication except for minoxidil. But if, all the stars align, maybe he'll get a good 2 years out of it.
Agreed.
And that is the best case scenario. So this
But
reporter
you
was
look
shocked.
at these guys, like you said, it's I mean, as a 17-year-old, it's going to be really rare that you have like obvious bald spots. So this doctor is, my guess, for the majority of the cases, going into existing hair, and you can be damn sure he's not prepping it properly, because if he were prepping it properly, he would have prepped the whole procedure by turning the kid down to begin with. I just, there's nothing about this that makes sense to me.
Well, I did, I made it very clear that, none of these kids are candidates. And, the article was, in my view, just, there was really no research done because, at the very least, and I know the Post is considered a tabloid, but at the very least, they should have gotten both sides of the coin. They should have spoken to an expert in the field.
Yeah.
It's very likely, and I don't know this for sure, but it's very likely that this doctor probably just works with the per diem technicians. I've never heard of him, so he is not part of the hair transplant world. He is being touted as a pioneer and as an expert,
Jesus.
just like all these other guys are. And so that's why it's so important that we do this every week. That's why it's so important that I can, even though I want to quit, I really do. There's so many days I just want to retire. But how can I?
I hear. I'm sorry. I'm getting kind of irritated. It's like I hear this. He's being touted as an expert, and I'm sorry. It's just like
if you look up, just read the
getting me
articles.
pissed off.
It's ridiculous. Listen, we're going to take a phone call. The phones are lit, so let me see if I can actually get a call to come through. Hopefully, this works. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this? Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Hi.
Hi, this is Jonah from Orange County, California.
Hey, how are you, man?
Hi, Jonah.
Good. Good. How you doing?
All right, man. What can we do
Very
for
good.
you?
Hey, I wanted to talk to you about. I noticed on your website that SSRIs have the potential of causing hair loss, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, listen, I mean, all antidepressants, whether it's tricyclics, SSRIs, and a lot of other medications have that potential for hair loss listed. It is not as common as a lot of people think. There are plenty of people who have a lot of success, and they're doing well on their medication, and they're not losing hair because of it. However, if you notice that you started taking the drug and all of a sudden you started to go through what's known as a telogen effluvium or shed, you started to notice hair after taking it, then it's possible that there's a strong correlation there. What's your situation?
Well, I'm not taking any SSRIs, but I was thinking about taking Wellbutrin,
Okay.
which technically isn't an SSRI.
Okay. Well, if you
And so I was wondering if that would be.
did you take a look at you taking Wellbutrin for what, to stop smoking or for your mental health?
No, I don't smoke. It's mostly for like anxiety.
Okay. Listen, all these drugs have the potential to cause hair loss. Even drugs even straight anti-anxiety like benzodiazepines have. And again, I want to preface everything I'm saying by letting you know I'm not a doctor. Klonopin, Xanax, they all list hair loss. And almost every drug has, it's very rare to see a drug that doesn't have hair loss as a possibly an adverse side effect. You just have to kind of take a look at the list and see the incidence and how low it's listed. If it's listed as a rare side effect, then there's probably a good chance that you're not going to have the problem. So I would definitely go to either drugs.com or another website and check out the incidence of adverse side effects, and also ask the doctor who's prescribing the drug if any of his patients who are on the drug ever suffered with, tell them you're concerned about it. Now, are you dealing with hair loss now?
No, I have a pretty good head of hair.
So I wouldn't even worry about it. What I mean, at this stage, you'll know if you start taking the drug, you'll know if you have a good head. Now, when you say pretty good, do you have male pattern baldness in your family? Have you started to lose hair at all, or are you completely solid?
Maybe a little in the temple area. I'm 34, but that's about it.
Well, Joe, you have a lot of a lot of experience in the trenches. I'm sure a lot of guys have come to you over the years when you worked for Hassan and Wong who are taking these different medications. I mean, what have you seen?
I've seen, it's a good question. I've seen some cases where, it's actually hard. It's been hard to quantify because the majority of them have come to us and they already have a hair loss issue.
Right.
So, I would try to get down to the crux of the situation. Try to filter out, did they see an increase of hair loss after they started taking it? Is it something that they could quantify in any way? And I'd say that it was pretty hard to differentiate the source of any issue, whether it was from antidepressants or not.
Yeah.
So I'm not really able to answer that very clearly. I wish I could, but it was just too much of a mixed bag.
Yeah, I would say that if you're, listen, if you're super worried about it, I mean, how bad is your anxiety? I mean, obviously you're thinking about taking medication for it, but if you took the medication and you started to lose your hair, then you'd probably be a lot more anxious, I'm assuming.
Probably.
Yeah. I would say, you know what? I mean, you have to kind of go with your gut. You could talk to your doctor about it. There's always, any medication you take, there's a possibility, that most medications list hair loss as a side effect somewhere down the line. If you look up Wellbutrin right now, I don't know, I could look it up too, but there's a good chance that it's probably, it's not listed highly as an adverse side effect. So, I mean, the chances are relatively slim that you're going to be dealing with it.
Hey Jonah, let me ask: if you're not losing your hair now, how did you find Bald Truth and the Bald Truth broadcast?
I found out about it through Andrew's site.
Oh, okay.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I was just curious because if you weren't losing your hair, then just trying to figure out.
That's the thing, man. We fucked so many kids up, man, with this show. They never would have thought about it before.
Never would have thought about it. They stumbled across, and now they're all worried.
Yeah. Now, man. I'm telling you, if you're really having severe anxiety disorders, if your doctor thinks this is the medication for you, do your due diligence. Know that it's always a possibility with most medications that you take. But it's probably something that's, it's relatively uncommon.
I would agree with that too.
Yeah, I think you've said in the past though that a lot of doctors are, they don't know as much as they should, in terms of these antidepressants, and so when I've asked about it, they just pretty much wrote it off and say, "Oh, don't worry about it."
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not, well, yeah, there are plenty of doctors that don't know shit when it comes to hair loss. And, whether it's gynecologists who are prescribing birth control pills to women and they kind of fluff it off like it's no big deal. Meanwhile, the vast majority of women who suffer early onset female pattern hair loss have been either on birth control pill or have gotten off birth control pills. And that's when it starts to happen. But, I'm looking it up right now. I would say, and again, I'm a layman, you probably have a pretty good chance of it not affecting your hair. If you really think that you need it, then, you kind of have to go with your gut. I mean, how is your anxiety? I mean, obviously it's affecting your life to the point where you're seeing a doctor. Is this a psychiatrist or is this your family doctor?
It's my primary care physician.
Okay. I mean, the main side effects, I'm looking it up here. It's like blurred vision, seizures, convulsions, fast heartbeats, fever, confusion. I mean, those are pretty fucked up.
Those are the ones I'd be more concerned about.
Yeah. Severe skin reactions, sore throat, swelling of the face, tongue, burning of the eyes, skin pain. Let's see. Common Wellbutrin side effects may include dry mouth, nausea, stomach pain, headache, dizziness, ringing in your ears, vision changes, loss of interest in sex, sore throat, muscle pain, mild itching or skin rash, changes in appetite and weight loss. Yeah, I mean, hair loss isn't even listed in the top 30 here. Restlessness. Yeah, I wouldn't be overly concerned about it. I'd be more concerned about the confusion and the fainting than the hair loss.
I gotcha.
All right, or the chest and pain. Oh, gee, I mean, there's a lot of side effects with this drug.
This is what kills me about antidepressants and things like this. Is like you hear the ad on TV when they take airtime on Channel 5 or whatever, and it's 10 seconds talking about this is a medication, this is what it does, and it's 45 seconds while of talking about the side effects while they got an image of a woman walking through a forest.
Yeah, no, it's actually I'm looking at I mean, at least on drugs.com, hair loss isn't even listed as a less common side effect.
Interesting.
So I think, at least according to this, it seems like at least there's been no incidents reported with this particular drug.
My
I hope that helped.
opinion is that even if it's not listed,
oh yeah, it can happen.
It's like any of these. It's like when I'm talking to someone and they have what they think is unexplained hair loss. That's one of the first things I ask is, are you taking any medications?
I agree.
It be, aspirin or an SSRI, it doesn't matter because anything can really affect it.
Oh no, I agree 100%. But the fact that it's not even listed as an uncommon side effect is a good sign.
Of course.
So that's it. I hope we were able to help to some degree, man.
Yeah, I was just curious on your thoughts. I've heard that it has a potential to cause hair loss. So even though the doctor recommended it, I didn't take it.
Well, I mean, what else? I mean, what else would you consider? How bad is your anxiety? Must be pretty bad.
I don't know.
Jack Daniels?
Deal with it.
I'm just kidding, man. Don't drink. Don't self-medicate. That's a bad idea. Listen, I would say that you can do more research. Take a look at all the contraindications and the side effects. I'm looking at it right now. Hair loss is not listed, but I've actually heard that it can cause hair loss. I don't know why it's not listed.
And I think the best thing to do is like you said, Spencer, is talk to your doctor, ask if they're, obviously your doctor has prescribed this before, so ask if he's had any reports from his patient specifically for the issue of hair loss.
All right, man?
Okay.
All right, well, listen, good luck, man. If you need any more help,
nice
feel free to
talking to you.
call. Okay, nice talking to you.
Take
All
care.
right. Take
Okay,
care.
bye-bye.
Bye.
888-659-3727.
It's a good question.
It is a good question, and I have to tell you that I am very, I'm very cautious with all medications. Now, I have taken anti-anxiety medication. I have taken Klonopin. I have taken Xanax. And there are times when when you read about them, hair loss, either getting on or getting off, could be a side effect. Luckily, I've never experienced that, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
You got to take a chance sometimes.
Of course.
I don't like to have them around because I'd be popping them all day at this point.
I have an anxiety about my anxiety pills.
Yeah, but that's funny because that's the way that I am. Like, I don't take that shit. When I was younger, yeah. Like when my mother died, I got it. I got some. Actually, when my brother was killed, I was given some.
Yeah.
And really, you didn't really think about it. But now I just know it's too easy to pop a pill.
It is. And what's interesting is I remember, 20 some odd years ago when I was in my early 20s. Ouch, that hurt. I remember, you remember the ADD craze?
Yeah.
When it first came out.
Well, I have ADD, so.
Well, see, and that's just it. I remember a long time ago, I remember it was on CNN, and it was Wolf Blitzer back before his hair was all gray or white, I should say. He was still wet behind the ears. And I remember him talking about this new condition called ADD, and they actually had a list of.
I'm sorry,
symptoms.
were you saying something?
Exactly, but they actually had a list of symptoms.
Yeah.
And I was in my late teens at the time, and I thought, "Holy shit, that's me!"
Right.
And being ADD, it was like 4 years later I decided to actually go talk to someone about it. but I'll never forget this. I went into this this office, this psychologist's office, I guess, and I sat down and filled out the paperwork, and then I was called back in this guy's office, and it was an older gentleman in his 50s, and
Jesus,
that's
older.
Well, for me at the time,
I get it.
So, in other words, he wasn't a spring chicken.
Right. Thank you.
Damn, it didn't come out right. No. He gave me a form to read while he reviewed my information.
How can you read the form? You have ADD.
No. Well, exactly. But the form was about him. And it was his success story. This kind of takes away from my point, but it's still kind of funny. It was a description of his life and his success, where up until he was like 45 years old, he was a tobacco farmer.
Wow.
And at the age of 45, he decided he no longer wanted to be a tobacco farmer, and he wanted to get into medicine. So he actually went back to college and went to medical school and wound up being a graduate of medical school in psychiatry by the age of 55.
Wow.
Very cool.
Yeah.
But completely irrelevant to why I was there. So
Right.
I'm asking myself, why the hell am I reading this? It's like, good for you. Help me. And within 5 minutes, I'd walked out of that room with a prescription for Ritalin.
Ritalin, okay.
Which was the drug of choice at the time.
No,
I don't know if it still is.
I think they probably prescribe Adderall more than Ritalin now. I don't know, but I'm kind of thinking, was he testing your reading comprehension or something? Did he quiz you?
I don't know. No, I don't recall him asking me anything about this. But I remember it being a quick in and out, as they say at the strip bar.
Right.
And I remember walking out and I was like, okay, this is what I read about. I would get a prescription for. I actually went in seeking this prescription because I heard that's what I needed, and I got it. And I took it for about 2 weeks, and I remember thinking, my stomach hurts, I feel queasy, and this is not worth it.
Yeah.
And I just dumped it right there, and then I haven't touched it since. So I may have been going through life with ADD. I don't know. But it's just one of those things where it's like, no, I don't want to deal with this because it's the solution is worse than the problem.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the medication. But you're 100% right. I feel the same way. I have ADD. I have all kinds of issues. I had, learning disability, movement disorder, and learning disabilities connected to the ADD. And I kind of had to learn how to work around it as a kid. Like, my reading comprehension was really lousy. And what I would do, my parents got me this little, at the time, Panasonic cassette recorder. And I would actually have to read my stuff twice because I would have to read it out loud and record it. And the only way I was able to really absorb it was to listen to my voice back. But that was a workaround that I thought of, that I basically thought of, and it worked like a charm.
Cool.
So, for me, I consider like those issues kind of almost like desirable disadvantages because I always had to learn how to think outside the box.
Well, I was going to say that's probably the reason why you've been, an entrepreneur for most of your life anyway.
Right.
So, because you've had to learn how to look at things differently than other people, like most entrepreneurs do. So that's interesting, and I think that you look at most success stories, and the people behind those, or that are in those success stories as a subject, tend to have some sort of idiosyncrasy that's somewhere out of the norm.
Oh, look at Richard Branson. He dropped out of high school because he has dyslexia.
Oh, I thought you were pointing him out because he's old and still has a goatee. But anyway,
son of a bitch.
No, that's not it.
That's not it.
Okay, all right.
There's a lot of guys, a lot of real success stories, and anyway. This kid sounded like he was having a little anxiety on the phone.
Yeah, but we digress. Not because we have ADD.
Yeah. No, but it's actually it's a real issue, and I've known people. I know someone who's in the television business, and guys, I'll take your calls in a second. And he says basically a lot of the writers are on Adderall,
Yeah.
and because it really helps them become hyper focused.
Yeah.
And there have been some doctors who suggested I give it a shot. There's one guy's like, you were like, what was the word that he used? I can't think of the word because I have this brain disorder. But he basically says that, the fact that I'm I'm super successful with this concentration issue, he said that I would be, it would help me to hyper focus and get the work done that may take me a certain amount of time in like a quarter of the time. And that I would be able to be even that much more productive.
See, and and things like that make me want to reconsider trying something because when I get interested in something, like today I was editing some of that video from my trip to Turkey.
Yeah.
It's like I have a focal cannon. It's like as long as I'm interrupted,
yeah,
I just don't stop.
Yeah, I'm actually the same way when I'm really focused and really interested in something.
Yeah.
Poor Andrew though. I mean I can't even talk to the kid. He needs to be on Adderall. I mean he's a great multitasker, but I'm Skyping with the kid. I mean I can't even get his attention half the time.
I can't multitask to save my life.
Yeah, he says he's doing it, but he's basically doing something else, and not listening to me. Let's take a phone call. Hey man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
All right. Who's this?
It's Baz.
Hey Baz, what's happening?
Hey Buzz.
Not much, man.
How are you feeling, man? What's the latest?
So I've been, I think I told you a while back that I was using Minoxidil.
Yes.
So I used it for a while. It's been like 6 months. And honestly, it did absolutely nothing. And not only did it not do nothing, but I feel like my hair got even worse. So
that's not uncommon, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like overall it just kind of got worse. It definitely did not help in any way at all. Like, it did absolutely nothing to zero, like nothing.
Right.
And, yeah, so...
I'm sorry to hear that.
So I'm at a point now where I feel like, well, I can't stop, because if I stop using it, I feel like it's going to be like, I'm going to totally go bald all of a sudden, because that's what I've heard happens. So I'm thinking more like maybe I should just try Finasteride, give it a try. I don't know. I really didn't want to do it when I first started reading about everything.
Yeah.
But now I just feel like I'm at a point where I'm in. I took the gamble. I'm in this. I might as well go all in, see if maybe it works or not.
Well, listen, I understand your dilemma, and here's the thing. I used Minoxidil, Rogaine for years. I actually was able to wean myself off it without going through a tremendous shed, but I took over a year to do it. I mean, it was
Did you taper it off?
It was a slow wean. I went from twice a day to then I cut it down to once a day, and then I was just using less and less, and I started to skip days. And it took me about a year. I didn't have a problem. But what usually happens is guys just stop using it, and then they go through a tremendous shed. So I don't think you need to take it for the rest of your life. But I do think that if you're going to stop using it, and I know obviously it's not working for you, take your time. Really spend a lot of time getting off it. As far as Finasteride is concerned, and again, let me preface this by saying I'm not a doctor. Our thoughts on this program about Finasteride. It's helped both of us out. And
now, have you seen any kind of anyone actually have significant regrowth where you can actually see whoa, this guy was balding but now he's not balding anymore?
I have.
Or is it you just kind of saw it stop?
No, I've seen that. Actually, it kind of happened to me, even though I caught it relatively early. I had to wait. Let's see, 94.
But you never really lost your actual hairline, did you? You always kind of maintain your hairline. You just kind of had some general thinning. No,
my hairline is recessed for sure. I mean, it's probably about When I was a kid, my forehead was smaller before I started to lose hair.
Well, yeah, that's everybody. Yeah.
Yeah,
of
but it's
course.
probably about maybe an inch and a half. My hairline. The temple that I cover up more on this side is a little bit more recessed, but it's basically been pretty good. It's more on the crown and the mid anterior scalp where I
Yeah,
started
you
to really
caught
see
it
it.
at a good time. I feel like I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I should have taken it maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and then I could have caught it. I don't know. At this point, I feel like maybe I should just fuck it, just not even give a shit, let go of everything, stop with this whole struggle, or try finasteride. Maybe it would work, and I wouldn't have any kind of side effects. So now
Well, how
I
bad?
really,
How
again,
bad?
I feel like
How
I don't
bad
know.
would your struggle be, though? I mean, if the fact you're able to say that, that means that you're probably. I think if I remember correctly, you said that you you shaved your head at one point, right?
Yeah, I did. I shaved my head when I first decided to do some kind of a treatment. I was like, fuck it, I'll shave my head.
And
to
how
be
was
honest,
life?
I mean, I looked okay. I looked good, but yeah, obviously you don't look as good. And of course, people make comments and things and here and there. It's more noticeable. And actually today, it's funny, my roommate today just said something. Like she was saying how she got her blow dryer back from her friend or something. And then she looked at me and she was like, well, you wouldn't know about that because, like, no hair or whatever. And then, like, we both kind of laughed. And then we just had a conversation about it. And I told her, I'm like, yeah, so basically nothing works. And I'm going to just fucking deal with it. And she was like, yeah, well, that's it, fuck it. And it's funny. This happened literally, like, 20 minutes before I called the show. And then...
Yeah, this is the way that I feel. I really believe this. If you can deal with it, there's no reason to put medication in your body. If you can deal with it, if you want to give it a shot, and if you think that you'd be happier if you'd be able to save your hair, and I think it's going to make a big difference in your life, which most guys, I mean, at least you know how we feel.
Well, it does. It does. Yeah, it absolutely does. Regardless of how we feel or not, like, it's just when you walk into a room, being a guy who looks young and you have nice haircut, you look stylish is nice. Being a guy who's balding is different. Like, it's a little bit different. It's not the end of the world, but yeah, it makes a difference.
But it also depends on
you're fat and you lose weight, and all of a sudden everyone's like, whoa, you look so different. Where when you're fat, all your friends are like, oh, you're fine. It's not a big deal. You're a little bit chubby. And then you lose the weight, and then everyone's like, whoa, oh my God, you're so different. Where's the other half of you? Like, they realize the difference that it made.
That's a good point.
It definitely makes a difference, but
for sure.
Yeah.
But but if but there's a lot of things you can do to compensate. I mean, you can be fucking jacked. You can make a lot.
Have to be. No,
You really get yourself in shape. Work on other aspects of your life. And are you a tall guy?
Yeah, I'm 6'4". I'm pretty
dude.
tall.
Oh, forget about it.
Dude, shave your fucking
I'm
head.
good. Like, it's
Fucking
not,
shave your head, grow a goatee or
world.
something,
Yeah.
man, and just fucking get really jacked if you're not already.
No, I definitely was pretty fit a little while ago. Gained a little bit of weight recently, but like I'll be back very soon. I've been working out again.
How old are you again?
I turned 25
Jesus.
in February.
Well,
So
happy birthday.
last time we talked, it was just before I turned 25.
Well, look,
So we were talking.
in my view, and according to all the real studies out there, the incidence of adverse side effects with finasteride are very low. If it's something you really want to give a shot, then obviously that's up to you, and you talk to your doctor about that. But I'm of the belief that if you think that you can deal with it, if you really do, if you think, okay, maybe it's not the end of the world, shave your head, live with it for a little while, then I say it's a lot easier not to worry about it, not treat it, and just to shave your head and not, even if it's a minuscule risk of taking the medication. If you really don't need it to live a good life, then why take it? That's how I feel.
I feel the same way, and you sound like you've got all the plus boxes checked, where you're young, you're tall,
Yeah.
you're not overweight, you're on the road to physical fitness. Own it, dude. I mean, check out. You're done. You don't worry about this anymore. Don't worry about medications, much less surgery. You win. I respect you and enjoy your life because you have nothing that is holding you back now.
But if it's something like you obviously you watch the show, you call us up, you have to kind of you have to figure out how much it really bothers you. And if it bothers you to the point where you're willing to take even if it's a minuscule risk, if it bothers you to that point, then But if you can kind of intellectualize it and sit back and You've already lived a little bit with a shaved head. I mean, is your head shaved right now?
No, it's kind of, I keep my hair short and I get like a fade on the side. So I kind of.
Well, what did your roommate say?
Short,
She's
though.
a woman.
I'm not trying to do some stupid like haircut. I keep it nice and short. I do it the way I should. And
Okay.
it looks fine, but it certainly doesn't look good. Like, I don't look like nice. I just look, you can tell that I'm losing my hair and I just keep it nice and short and that's it.
Okay. Now, so the women in your life, what do they say about it?
Well, my girlfriend obviously doesn't care. No one's girlfriend cares. But, you know, girls care. Like, not like that it makes that much of a difference. No one says anything to me or whatever, but you know that the difference would be made. You can just feel that you'd feel differently, and therefore you'd act differently, and you would look different as well. So
Now, do you notice that are women reacting to you differently now that you have more visible hair loss?
Probably, yeah. Definitely girls around my age group or younger, it's like, I don't think that they notice that you're balding. They just don't find you as attractive.
As attractive.
You don't look like you don't look like a young, like, good-looking, cute boy, as they all say, or whatever.
I get it.
You know what I mean. You don't have like a nice young guy hairstyle.
Yeah, I saw that shit.
So,
That's when I started to get depressed. Like I went from, you know, a guy that got a relatively decent amount of attention to all of a sudden it wasn't the same, and it fucked me up. You know, I was 21 years old. And I just couldn't deal with it at the time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But
well, the thing is, I'm lucky because I still definitely get attention just based on my size and my extreme like masculinity. Like, I'm pretty manly in every way, so I definitely get attention because of that, and I am lucky and grateful of what I do have. So for sure, I'm happy about that.
Take those strengths and accentuate them as much as you can. And I think that you're like Spencer said. If it's really bothering you, then explore the options that were discussed. But someone like you, like if you came into my office when I was in an office and sat down and started talking to me about this, I would strongly encourage you to walk out of my office and not look back, because you don't understand. I know it bothers you, like Spencer said, obviously, because you're calling the show, you listen to the show, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think that as a 25-year-old young man, you understand the power of your position. You have everything going for you as far as what a man losing his hair could hope for, short of getting your hair back. I mean, everything else is an A+.
I mean, the truth is, by the time you're 30, all of your contemporaries are going to be, most of them will be in the same position.
Exactly.
Yeah, it won't matter. Yeah, it matters less and less.
So
hair loss is the great equalizer. Make no mistake.
So if you become the fucking Rock, in the next 5 years, really get yourself into the shape that you want to be.
That's the key. All the guys who really pulled it off and do it well, they're all extremely fit.
Yeah.
It's like a huge, and we all notice it because we're looking like that. No one else may notice it, but I definitely have noticed it.
You think if Jason Statham was like a pudgy guy, because he's a small dude. He's not a tall dude. I've seen him. He goes to my dentist, but he is in such incredible shape, and he happens to have a good-looking face too. But if he wasn't in the shape that he's
British,
in,
and he has the whole British thing. Yeah, he's good.
And the attitude, of course, right?
But when I met him in person, and I was like shocked at his stature. He's like a little dude, and he's significantly bald. As what?
As are most guys in Hollywood.
A lot of guys are, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's a little dude, but I'm saying like maybe he's like 5'8" or something.
Yeah.
Something, he just doesn't see. He doesn't have the stature that he has on camera,
right.
But he still carries himself like, obviously he's worth tens of millions of dollars, and he dates supermodels, and he's
the transporter. He's like the coolest guy.
He's a very cool guy.
Yeah.
But there are. Look, it's funny because every once in a while I'll speak to a doctor who'll call me up and he'll say he's listening to the show, and he'll be a member of my organization. He goes, "What are you doing?" And this has happened more than once. You're talking people out of surgery. And I do the same thing for medication. To me, you are a winner if you don't have to do anything. If you want to call the show and watch us, great. I appreciate that. But I would love you to be like one of these guys. Who's that guy? Vic from DC.
Yeah.
Who was considering, he was going to have surgery. I was able to talk him out of it, and now he just says it changed his life. He doesn't even worry about his hair anymore because he realized that he's able to live his life without his hair.
Yeah.
I'm not so lucky. You know, I'll be shellacking the top of my head and doing whatever I can until I'm 90 years old. That's just the way it is. That's my cross to bear.
And,
But
and, and I've
if
got
you
too much
just, like-
surgery invested to not fight tooth and nail to keep mine as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
Well, it's still, I know that ultimately the best answer, is to just fucking rock it and just, that's it, right?
Yeah.
But it's just because I decided to do something about it, and now I feel like I'm trapped in this situation, and I might as well try the best thing that I should have just tried it to begin with. And so that's really the dilemma now, is like, should I just, I don't even know what to do. I feel like I can't stop the minoxidil, especially not like too fast, right?
Well, I would
I'd have to
definitely
taper it
I would
off
taper
and-
off, take 6 months, even to I took a year, but 6 months is probably
Yeah.
reasonable. Just taper off, get to the point where you're doing it, once a day, and then every other day, and then every third day, and then twice a week, and just take it really slow.
And why isn't why is it you're not taking finasteride already? Is it because of the side effects that you're afraid of?
Well, yeah, no, I just did a lot of reading, and it changes your hormones and whatever. So I was like, well, I
Don't
might
read,
as well try.
dude.
Don't
Don't read.
Yeah, I know. The reading is what destroys everything. Is because you're driving yourself crazy.
Yeah.
But of
Well,
course, you
it's
have
it's
to do the
reading and then
research.
worrying about what you
Yeah.
read. That's what destroys it, right? So
Yeah.
here's my take is Spencer is saying that if you're going to stop minoxidil, taper yourself off. I say if you're going to start finasteride, taper yourself on,
Yes.
because it's my opinion.
Get
And
yourself
again,
on, yeah.
no,
if I'm gonna
I'm not a
start
doctor, but
finasteride,
if you were to start, this is what I tell patients. I say take if you're going to take Propecia 1 milligram tablet or Proscar 1/4 tablet, I say take one piece or once a week every Monday for 1 month. The second month, take it Monday and Thursday, twice a week.
Yeah.
The third month, take it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 times a week. And then after that, you can move into every day, or even keep it at every other day, because that seems to work for a lot of guys too. But take a few months and ease yourself into it on that schedule, and and that can help from my experience.
And I mean, as far as minimizing the possibility of side effects, but or you got a guy like Andrew Zarian, he'll take anything. I mean, if you give him a button, he'll swallow it.
he wasn't even. His hair was fine. If I was him, I wouldn't take anything. Like he really didn't.
Well,
do
I'm
anything.
gonna be completely candid, and he knows. Now that I've seen him do well with it, I mean, it was definitely changing. Like you would see him outside in the bright light, and you can, if you know what to look for, you were able to see kind of the initial pattern forming
Early, yeah.
very early. Now he still had, I would say, at least 2 years before anybody would really notice anything, and he may have been one of those really slow progressors, and he started relatively late. He was in his, I'd say he probably started about 26, 27. He's 31 now. But like even his wife said, who she was totally against it, was like, oh my God, it is a big difference. So he happened to be a very early responder. He did well with it, and he's happy. He's got no adverse side effects. But again, this guy, he doesn't even think about side effects. I'm not even joking. He'll take anything.
Mm-hmm.
You just give him a bowl of pills, and he'll just grab a handful.
Like Skittles.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
he doesn't have that hypochondriacal. He's on the other end of the spectrum.
Did you say hypochondriacal?
I did.
Damn, that's a good word.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just impressed with that. That's good.
Why, thank you. All right, man. Well, listen, I wish you the best of luck. I mean, I would just say, really think about it. I think Joe's suggestion is a good one, even though neither of us are physicians.
Mm-hmm.
If you're concerned about the side effects,
Well,
but you do.
I'll do them together. Yeah, I'll do finasteride. If I do finasteride, I'll do it with minoxidil, everything together. Like I'm all in or I'm all out. That's how I do things. So I feel like I'll try that
a lot of doctors
for another few months.
prescribe it that way. Most doctors prescribe it that way. So, but I just don't think that a lot of guys think that they're stuck on minoxidil, and they are not. So,
Exactly.
if you want to get off it eventually, it's probably best if you're going to take finasteride to start to taper off of it while you're on finasteride. But again, that is totally up to you. But let us know what you decide to do. But my
So you
honest
saw-
advice would
you
be
saw minoxidil do nothing. basically. When you took minoxidil,
No,
you
no,
thought
it
nothing
actually
as
helped me.
well?
It helped me for a while. You know, I consider minoxidil to be kind of like a Band-Aid. It usually acts, you know, if it does work, it works for a few years for most people, and then the hormones just basically take over.
Yeah.
But, and I'm sure, Joe, you've probably experienced the same thing with guys that you've spoken to.
Yeah, exactly.
But there are plenty of people that continue to take it for a long time. There's doctors who claim that it doesn't stop working. That hasn't been my experience. So I took it, and then, you know, when I started Finasteride, I was kind of like, you know, I don't know if I want the whole kitchen sink thing happening. I want to know what's working for me. But I tapered. I was on the radio when I tapered off, and I was talking about it, you know, every week. And a lot of guys are really worried about it, so I kind of documented my journey of tapering. And so I would say that for the first couple of years, I thank God that I had minoxidil, even though it wasn't approved as Rogaine yet for hair loss. I basically had to go to a compounding pharmacy and have the drug made for me out of the Lonitin pills, and they would crush it up with like alcohol and some other stuff, mixed it up. I put it on my scalp at night. I wake up with like this white powder on my head. But it definitely did slow things down for, I'd say, a good 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
Okay.
that's my story,
Well,
dude. Listen.
yeah,
Don't
no, I
rush into
appreciate
it. You're already on. You're already on it. It's not obviously it's not working well for you. But really think about it. You know, really think. You know, sit down. Even talk to your friends. You know, and your family, and think about whether or not you want to start this ride, because, you know, once you're in, you're in. You could always stop, obviously, but, you know, you're still putting medication in your body that is not something that's, you know, really necessary for your health. Now, it was necessary for my mental health. That's why I took it. But if you're a guy who can deal with hair loss, then, you know, it may not be for you. That's the best advice I can give you.
Okay.
All right, man?
All right, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, you let me know what you decide to do, and I wish you luck.
Absolutely, man.
All right.
Awesome.
You
Thank
take
so
care.
much, guys.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, cool. Bye.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. To me, obviously he's worried about it. So he's probably going to take it, and that's fine. But I like to let these guys know if what their real options are, and the real option, the best option is to do nothing.
Exactly, and that's the most important thing to take away from this. And for anyone listening, it's like, you know, there's nothing wrong with going the other direction. In fact, it's preferable in the long run, if you can, to avoid not just the surgery but also the medications, and just, you know, accept yourself. If you're strong enough to do that, then that's great. And I think that's preferable. But as we know, unfortunately, that's usually not the case. That's why there's, you know, this $1 billion industry of hair loss.
Oh, dude, I'll be gluing a wig on if I have to. It's just the way it's going to be, and I'm very open about that. That's how I want to live my life with hair in my head.
And I would go the opposite direction. If something happened to, you know, all these hairs that are covering the top of my head through surgery, if something happened to make them fall out or just look like hell, I would go the other direction, and I would shave it. I would shave this shit down, and do everything I could to camouflage the donor scar and just forget about it.
Yeah, and that's great. That's great. I you know what? I still can't get past this shit. I really can't, and that's why I still do what I do.
Yeah.
Let's take a break.
Okay.
Guys, give us a call, 888-659-3727. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Again, the phone number is 888-659-3727. If you have any questions, concerns about your hair loss, or if you just need to vent, maybe you have surgery scheduled for this week. Maybe you have surgery scheduled with a doctor that, I've never heard of. Call me. Let us know what's going on. I mean, let me tell you something. There are so many good times that guys have called. They've had surgery booked, and I told them, listen, forget about your deposit. It's the best money you've ever lost.
Exactly.
Not to go through with something that could possibly destroy your life.
And more times, and unfortunately, more times than that, you've had people call, like I have, saying, I just had something done.
Yes. Oh.
And I just now found your website, or I just now found your show, or I just now found your information. What did I do?
And that's something I want to talk about when we come back, because I got a very interesting email from a doctor at late night yesterday, and talking about some issues about the forum. And I kind of want to talk about why we choose to kind of protect prospective patients from some of the rhetoric that could be put out there on message forums, whether it's
Okay.
by doctors or by patients. So we'll talk about that. 888-659-3727. I'm Spencer Kobren. You're listening to and watching The Bald Truth. Stay with us.
Hey, the Red Rocker Sammy Hagar.
And Michael Anthony.
You're listening to the baldest on the planet, Spencer Corbin's The Bald Truth. Woo!
Hey guys, welcome back. 888-659-3727. I'm Spencer Kobren. You are listening to and watching The Bald Truth. Great to be here. And, Jesus, that was abrupt. You know, when I took the break, I started to talk about, and I know Joe's still there, right, Joe?
I am still here.
Okay. I got an email yesterday that was interesting, to say the least. I'm not going to say who it's from, but it's from a physician who felt that his point of view was being censored on Bald Truth Talk. And what I try to explain to people, especially in my view, physicians really need to be held to a higher standard. That if someone makes a statement, a declarative statement, say whether it's about a certain technique or about a specific doctor, whatever it is, there are thousands of people reading that statement. And if it happens to be a person who just had, say, surgery with that doctor or surgery utilizing this device that day, and then reads a blanketed statement that can make that person feel like they may have made a mistake when they've already gone through with the surgery, I personally don't think that's a great idea to have some of that stuff out there. I think it's important to educate patients in a responsible way, but it's not ideal to harm them emotionally, if you know what I'm saying. And I see a lot of that shit on the forums. And I see it all the time. I even see doctors who will comment on another physician's case. And these are pictures of a patient who signed away, who said, okay, I'm going to sign this release. You can put my pictures on the internet. And obviously he signed this because he thinks he looks good. And then a doctor will go on there and basically say the results suck. I don't see how that's allowed. I mean, what do you think about that?
You know, I agree with you, but I think that there's some situations where there might be some leeway in this, and let me have a chance to explain this.
Oh, you have all the
If
time
there's,
you want.
thank you. If there's someone that's saying, "Hey, I had a procedure, look at me," and then a doctor comes on and says, "Well," says some things that might make the patient second guess their procedure that they just went through. I think that shows, and I'm not sure exactly which case you're speaking of or which doctor, but I think that shows a lack of good judgment.
Well, I'm not going to tell you which doctor. I'm not going to tell you which case or what it was about, but there's been many instances of a lack of good judgment, in my view.
Yeah.
And I think that it really endangers the emotional well-being of someone who has to deal with this healing process, which is a roller coaster to begin with.
And that's what I was going to say is being a patient many times over, and to qualify that, my last three surgeries, it was a non-issue for me because there was 0 seconds where I was actually worried about the outcome. So let me just qualify that. But the average patient is shitting their pants for about 6 months.
Right.
But basically. So I think it's severely bad judgment by a doctor to publicly or privately, but publicly in some cases I've seen, to go out and say it could have been better.
Yes.
This could have been done instead of that, and I would have done this instead of this.
And that is, to me, it's so irresponsible. It's so self-serving, and you just leave well enough alone. And I even believe the same goes for speaking about certain devices in a very derogatory, possibly defamatory way. It's one thing to give your opinion, but there are so many patients that read our forum, and I mean, it's the most viewed forum in the world, and definitely in the U.S. and in the U.K. We are number one, and there are so many patients that have had, say, surgery by, even with a neograft or with using the SAFE system or whatever. And if a doctor comes on and says, well, you know what, the SAFE system, and this is just an example, I'm not saying this happened, but the SAFE system is this, and it causes this, and it does that, then the patient that just had that surgery is reading this from a doctor thinking, holy shit, what did I just do to myself? Yep. When, in fact, there's a very good chance that the patient's going to come away with a good experience. So that's what I mean. We're not out here, and if the doctor's listening, I mean, it's important that he, and I'm going to write him back. It's important that he understands that yes, we have a tremendously powerful and influential platform, but if you are the guy that's commenting on it, then you're the guy that's taking advantage of that influence, and everything you say, every word that you write, is going to affect the lives of a patient. You may think that you're trying to help people, but you could be harming many people, in the process. Guys who have had surgery with a certain doctor or a specific device. So there are ways to say something, and there are ways not to say something.
Well, not to mention the fact, I started kind of following this self-imposed guideline, I guess you could say, a few years ago, where I started to realize it's like, my words do have meaning, they do have power, and they are influencing people, and I don't want to freak people out, but at the same time, what I've been saying for quite a while now, just because one doctor doesn't like a technique of another doctor doesn't mean it's not going to work out perfectly fine in the end, because ultimately, which is, this is one of my messages, the tool is only as good as the person that's wielding it. And to say that procedure X is not nearly as good as my procedure, or not nearly as good as procedure Y, I think that in itself, regardless of what the patient may think, I just think that is also very self-serving, because aside from promoting yourself over this competitor, for lack of a better,
right,
you're not really speaking with authority, because this clinic that's using procedure X is getting great results, happy patients. So who are you to come out and say it's so much inferior to your own?
And also, I mean, the procedure X, for instance, whatever the procedure is, in one practice it may do wonder. They may produce incredible, consistent, reproducible results.
Yeah.
But in someone else's hands, in someone else's practice, or someone else's team, you may get shit results. That's just the way that it is.
Exactly.
So it does. My job is, and this doctor actually said, he wants to try to protect patients. I get that, but that's what we're doing. And there's a way to go about things, and there's a way, in my view, that really is harmful to the psyches of these kids. And a lot of these guys are really young who read the forums. And they're incredibly impressionable, and you can't scare the shit out of them, especially, like you said, if you're speaking about something that you really might not have firsthand experience with.
And not to mention, I mean, you said these kids, but it's also it's men of all ages, because when you're when you're in the position where you have to seek out medical treatment to treat your hair loss, you're in a very vulnerable position. Doesn't matter how old you are, in my opinion. You're vulnerable. You're looking for help, and anyone that's going to basically shit on it by saying that what you just went through is, far and away from the best procedure you could have had, that's going to make them feel just like a 16-year-old that got his heart ripped out at prom or whatever.
Well, listen, if you notice, if you take a look at the forum, I have advised our mods to. I get no kickback or money from large chain clinics, but I'm not going to let either doctors or patients just blindly defame these clinics, because
it makes no sense to.
Well, not only does it not make any sense, if a patient comes on and said he just went to such and such clinic, and he wants to write about his experience, and then people are like, oh my God, haven't you ever come to the site before? Why would you go there?
Yeah.
And if a doctor comes on there, I mean, there's a reason why those posts cannot go through.
There's a reason why those chain clinics are still in existence.
Well, that's true.
Every procedure they're doing isn't a failure.
That is true.
They've got a lot of happy patients. They may, they may not be the most educated, whatever, but it's like, come on. I mean,
listen, and I am the guy. I came out swinging, man. I mean, I used to play the fucking Godfather music to talk about one of the heads of this, one of these chain clinics.
Yeah.
I went after the biggest of the biggest, and I've said some really, let's say, special things,
special.
About these large chain clinics, and no one has ever put their neck on the line like I have. And I have dealt with whatever the consequences have been over the years. But the truth is, as I've evolved and as, we've been on the air for so long and have done so much, I got to tell you, even these large chain clinics, companies like Bosley, they have come such a long way that
they've upped their game.
Oh, my God. You do not get the complaints that we used to get. It's a totally different animal. Now, would I recommend them at this point? No, we don't work with them. And I can't recommend them at this point. But it doesn't mean that they don't have thousands of patients who have had fine results.
Exactly. I agree 100%.
It may not be the stuff that you're seeing from the IHRS. It may not be the stuff that we're used to, to seeing. But the vast majority of guys who are getting these transplants, they have more hair on their head. It looks natural. And, they come away with a decent experience. So for anyone to come on the message forums with their short list, or whether it's a doctor or a patient, and to make these declarative statements that, this is, they're very dogmatic and this is this and this is the way it works. I've learned a long time ago that, there was a time when that was necessary. Things have shifted.
Absolutely.
Things have definitely changed.
I agree. That's one of the things that I've been realizing in the past few years through my own
I miss drinking wine, by the way.
Transformation. I'm not there yet. I'm actually drinking water. I got more work to do after this, but I got to edit some videos, so I need to be straight up. But
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things I've realized over the past few years, and through my professional evolution, is that these all the clinics, as far as I'm concerned, not all, but the majority of the clinics that are out there, including these chains, they have upped their game. And like you said, we're not seeing these disasters nearly as often as we used to, much less just general patient complaints. They've really upped their game, and you gotta take some credit for that with Bald Truth Talk and with the show.
I'm not going to take some credit for it. I'm going to be honest. I take a tremendous amount of credit for it, because the truth is, when I started in 1998, there was nobody doing what I did. I busted the industry wide open. That's just the truth. So I don't mind patting myself on the back. And it caused a fucking stir, but it changed everything.
And the mic drops. Boom.
I'm out of here. Good night.
Good night.
And that's just the truth, man. I remember there are guys who are currently in the IHRS that at one point despised me because they didn't want to change the infrastructure of their practice. They were like,
wait. Someone that despised you?
they did not want to. They were like, who the fuck is this guy? And you know what? I was the guy that had the courage and the gumption and the wherewithal to write about this stuff, to get my ass published. It's not like now anyone can get published, because you can self-publish, and to go on the radio and put my neck on the line and tell the truth about what was happening in the industry. And I hear, like some doctors, one guy I spoke to says, well, you've really softened your position. I didn't soften my position. The position is softened because the industry has gotten so much better in general.
Yeah.
It's still fucked up.
Oh, no question.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, let's not misrepresent what's actually going on here. It's still fucked up, but
I also will give credit to the other guys who kind of came along after I started doing what I do, and they've had influence as well. Guys like Farrell, for instance, who when I hooked him up with Ray Woods back in 1999, 2000. And if that hookup didn't happen and Farrell didn't accept that, then these guys who are claiming to be the first guys to do FUE, they never would have even considered it.
No.
You know? So, and that's a guy, and listen, I don't even talk to the guy anymore, but that's a guy that I think deserves some credit as far as being a part and being written in the history of the evolution of FUE, because he accepted the fact when I spoke to him and said, listen, this guy's onto something, you should let him on your website and talk about it. He did. And that really helped a lot. That really helped with the evolution of things.
Yeah.
But a lot of these doctors forget all that shit.
Well, they forget a lot.
Yeah.
You're also talking to one of the warriors, if you will, for the strip movement. That was me.
That was you, yeah.
And I am a convert. I mean, and this has been an ongoing process over the past, God, how many years now? But
dude, you used to give me so much shit. You used to talk to me about this stuff, and it's like, how can you promote FUE? I'm like, dude. I mean, just take a closer look, and eventually you did.
Well, and just be more neutral about it when I'm talking publicly, right? Or even privately, which I took that stance years ago, and it was a good move. But I look at this and I don't know. It reminds me of another situation that kind of bothers me, and I think we got time for this.
Sure. We got about 10 minutes, so go ahead.
I'm going to segue into a different subject. Doctors that are known for world class. I'm talking top notch IAHRS strip results.
Right.
Okay. And they're suddenly being touted for their FUE abilities with zero results online.
Right.
What sense does it make? And I hope, you know what, maybe there's a caller that's online now or someone that can call in that can answer this for me. I would love to talk about this.
Let me go with the number 888-659-3727. Give us a call if you have any commentary.
If anyone out there is considering a doctor that that's saying that they do FUE, but they're known for their strip and they have only 1 or 2 cases of FUE published, why are you considering this doctor for FUE, and why are you quote unquote assuming, and I'm using those air quotes because that's what people say, I assume that they're good at FUE. Why would you do that? Why would someone assume that if someone is a master at one procedure in any industry, why they would be a master at another procedure in the same industry, but it's completely different?
I mean, I think that's a good question, but I think it's, in my view, it's kind of, it's pretty obvious. It really comes down to these, being able to market themselves well online, and also the fact that, these guys who have had a history in the industry have already kind of like been put on everyone's short list on the message forums.
No, so, I understand that. I understand the mentality behind it, but
right.
I look at how
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, I try to look at this from a patient point of view, but with logic, getting from point A to point Z. Where are the rest of the letters that get me there? I don't see them.
Okay, so what are you seeing online?
Well, exactly what I said. Doctors that are known, I do say plural, right. Doctors that are known for their strip results, and there are a couple of different clinics like this. And someone says, I was talking to the consultant, and they, I asked about FUE. They said they do FUE, so I'm going to have an FUE procedure with them. And then the question is asked, well, how many results have you seen? Well, 2.
Right. Yeah.
What? But they're doing the surgery anyway. I'm sorry, it just doesn't make any sense.
Well, because they're basing their decision on the years of incredible strip results that these guys are getting, and I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
for sure. So what happens? Are these guys all of a sudden hiring a team to perform the surgery? Do these guys all of a sudden learn how to do FUE well overnight? Because we know that it takes a long time to really learn how to do the procedure well.
Well, exactly. You can't just suddenly do it. And so what I've heard, like behind the scenes, people talking to the consultants are saying, well, we've been doing it. It's just, the classic excuse, which is a valid excuse. We just haven't had anyone come forward and say, yeah, you can use my photos.
Right.
I get it. I've been there for 1,000 times. I've tried to get photos and people say no. But still, it doesn't mean that the evidence is there. And so it comes down to believing what the consultant's saying versus believing what your eyes are saying, or maybe your gut.
Right.
And so I get it why you would trust a doctor that has a great track record in strip. I get it, but the patient in me, or should I say the patient advocate in me, has to question at the top of my lungs, screaming, why would you go anyway? Because if they don't have the body of work that you're looking for to be replicated on your own head, it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, and I agree with you 100%, but we also know the psychology of these patients. We understand, how they make the decisions. It's an incredibly emotional situation for them.
Yeah.
So if they feel comfortable in the facility, if they feel comfortable with the physician's work that they've seen, and, if they are told the right things by the consultant, it's not a hard sell.
Well, and I know, I understand that being a former consultant.
And I'm just saying, I agree with you. I mean, I think it's nuts.
It is nuts. And so, I'd love for, again, someone please call 888-659-3727. I want to talk about this. But, at the very least, what I'm doing is I don't want to, drag anyone through the mud on this. I'm not going to name names, but I just think that people should think twice. If they're great at strip, great, but push them with the hard questions, push them with the hard requirements. If you're telling me you're doing FUE and you're good at it, prove it. That's the message I want to get across. That's what's been bothering me.
Well, and I agree with you, but I mean, the bottom line is this. Everyone now is offering FUE. They have to. In order to compete, they have to be a part of the game.
Yeah.
So how do we know? I mean, I know, but how do consumers know in general how long they've actually been experimenting with FUE? I mean, there are some hardcore strip guys that have now starting to convert their practice. They've either purchased a robot, or in some cases they've gotten a neograft, or in some cases they've just decided to hire the right amount of techs who are already, relatively skilled, and, they're offering it in their practice.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that if it's a practice that has a history of really great quality control and the doctors are ethical, then there's probably a relatively good chance that, they're watching everything pretty closely and they can see what a good graph looks like, and they might not just be, throwing these patients into the lion's den. But
and I'm not suggesting they are. It's just I think that in today's forum world, and all the websites with results, I just think that patients should demand more.
Let me tell you something. I have a very well trafficked forum. It's a great. I'm glad that we decided to put a forum up a few years ago, but the forums are so fucked up in general. They really are. There's a lot of great information that you can glean from the forums, but I tell patients they really have to take everything with a grain of salt. If you don't know where that information is coming from, if you're taking information from anonymous users, then you just don't know which way is up. You have to really listen. If it's a guy like you who's posting, a guy like Spencer Stevenson, if it's a physician who's in the industry, at least you know where you're getting the information from.
Right.
But to take your short list and to take your information from anonymous users, even if they're posting images, even if they're posting their experiences, it's still risky, because the truth is you don't really know if they're real users. Even with images, that could all be replicated. That could all be, dummied up.
Of course. I mean, ultimately, the best way to verify anything is to say, give me a list of 10 patients I can talk to. But even then, it's
you're only going to get the best patients. That's just the way that it is. But at least you're going to get some, you're going to get experiences. You're going to be able to have the opportunity to ask the right questions. I always actually tell people to see patients. See if you can just, see someone who has similar hair characteristics, similar skin characteristics, who may have had a similar, baldness pattern as you. So at the very least, even though this is going to be a home run that you're going to meet, that's a possibility.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to is seeing what's possible, and seeing if the clinic has a demonstrable consistency with their record for similar types of procedures. One of the things I noticed in my years in the office is, and online, is a lot of times patients will need hairline work, and they're looking at Norwood 6 restoration saying, oh, I don't know if I'd like that. Well, neither would I.
Yeah.
I was a Norwood 3.
Sure.
So it's a relativity issue that I think also gets lost in the mix. But yeah, I mean, back to this thing. I just think that patients should exercise a bit more common sense when they're looking for that doctor that's going to do what they need to have done. And if they're touting a particular procedure that is better for them, then I think it's incumbent upon the patient to insist on examples that have the highest level of verifiability. Can be verified.
Verifiability.
Thank you. As possible for that particular scenario.
And I agree. And the one thing that I think that patients really need, prospective patients need to understand, is just because someone has 10,000 posts on a fucking message forum does not make them an expert. It may make them obsessive compulsive. It may make them lonely. It may make them just totally obsessed. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't make them an expert.
No.
And, when I see guys who they actually post, well, this guy is a, whatever, ultra member, whatever they're called, whatever we call them. I don't even know. The guys that are posting a lot. It doesn't mean shit. Just because you've been sticking around the forum for 10 years doesn't mean that you know jack.
Yeah. True.
Especially if you're not actually involved in the industry.
Much less, have step foot in multiple clinics to see how they do things.
Absolutely.
And
even the guys that have been burned who are on the forums, making comments and, posting their opinions, they've only had their experiences. And maybe they've spoken to some guys who've had, various experiences because they kind of reach out to the guys who've had the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
It does not mean that they are true experts in the field. And that bugs me too, because so many guys rely on their advice, on the advice of completely anonymous strangers.
And it's easy to fall into that trap when that anonymous stranger says, "I've been there, I understand."
Sure.
And suddenly their credibility for a few people goes up, and so they're more likely to listen to the advice of these people. Where I look at some of the pieces of advice given, and I just shake my head because it's absolutely 100% false.
Well, I would prefer to listen to the guys that have been able to avoid being put into those situations.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, you got fucked up early on, but you kind of stopped after 2 procedures, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the joke. It took 2 procedures for me to finally say, what happens if I lose more hair?
Right. But okay, so, it was still, at the time you were young, you didn't possess the wherewithal to kind of just put the brakes on it early on, but you didn't have 4 procedures or 5 procedures, and you weren't going to multiple. You just said, you know what, this is not good, until you found Dr. Wong.
I got off the Ferris wheel really early.
Right.
Yeah, or fairly early.
Yeah, and how many grafts total did you have for the first 2 surgeries?
It's like 800 were extracted, 300 grew.
Yeah. So really, you didn't lose that much of your donor.
No, not that much. I mean, there are 2 donor strips. They're stacked one above the other, so and they're fairly wide. So, there was that loss, but I wasn't a train wreck, and I wasn't one of these people that kind of dwelled on my problem all day, every day. I just kind of sucked it up and moved on. I was always, I told you this before, I was always in the public eye as far as in the service industry, bartending, waiting tables, managing restaurants, that kind of thing. I couldn't wear a hat to hide this mess that was a hairline and how bald I was. So it's like you either withdraw and live under a hat and be a hermit and avoid promotions because you don't want to be in a position where you can't wear your hat.
You mean like Joe from Staten Island?
Like Joe from Staten Island, God bless him. Or you just say F it and you compensate by developing personality plus, as I call it, being more outgoing. And it was kind of like a defensive mechanism for me to be outgoing, to deflect from the issue that's right in front of them, right? And I actually wouldn't change it if I could, because it actually served me well. I think it helped to prepare me for other things in life
Yeah.
that have benefited from that experience.
Well, listen, this is all, I think the bottom line for prospective patients who are doing their research online is whatever research you think you're doing, is, when you're meeting strangers and they're giving you advice, you really need to know where this advice is coming from, who these people are, why they've had the experiences that they've had. And the fact that, there's a lot of people out there that really think they know what the fuck they're talking about and they have no clue.
Yeah.
So understand the source. And, in my view, and I always say this, surgery is always there. It's a last resort. If it takes you 2 years to do your research, take that time, because what you have done today will affect the rest of your life.
And that's the thing is, like you said, surgery's not going anywhere. The option will always be there. So take your time.
That's it. And, on that note, Joe, I'm going to call it a night.
I'm down with that.
So I want to thank you, Joe Tillman, hairtransplantmentor.com. Correct?
That is correct.
All right.
Thank you very much.
I forget everybody's website. And we will be putting up some stuff. You traveled to Turkey. You gave us some great video, which we're putting together now. That will be on baldtruthtalk.com. And you're going to put some video up on your site as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm editing actually as we speak. Once we are done, I'm back to work. So.
And I think it's really important, for guys who are considering going overseas to have a hair transplant. It's not easy. You got to make sure you go to the right doctor. There are only 3 physicians in Turkey who are recommended, and clinics who are recommended by the IHRS. Meanwhile, there are about 500 in Turkey and about 250 in Istanbul alone.
Yeah.
So it is, in my view, for all intents and purposes, a relatively dangerous place to have cosmetic surgery, especially if you don't know who you're going to. I mean, everyone is offering these great deals, and we talked about this last week, where you have these, third-party consultants that are just kind of like arranging and scheduling these procedures. You got to be careful. You really do. You can get a great result. You can get a great hair transplant, but you got to know where you're going.
You got to be careful, for sure.
And I think it's great that you actually put together just the entire experience of, the amount of time it takes to travel there, and just stuff that a lot of guys they don't realize, especially like you said, if they've never been out of the country before, let alone they're going out of the country, they're going to this Middle Eastern, country. I mean, it's not Middle Eastern, but to have, in a completely different culture, to have a surgical procedure. It's a big fucking deal.
And then to turn around and come back.
Yeah.
Which, that's another issue because it is so far. And I actually talk about it while I'm traveling. It kind of hit me. It's like, it's a big deal just to get there. I think it's a good idea to stay maybe, for some guys, an extra few days just to kind of, relax a bit before you do it all over again and fly back halfway around the world again. So
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So this it's almost like a documentary that I filmed, showing the actual journey, what it's like to go there, getting to Turkey, hopping in a car, being driven to the hotel, getting to the hotel, the whole 9 yards. And it's not real time because that would be 16-hour video.
Yeah.
But yeah, I try to put it together so that people can get a better idea, no matter which clinic they're going to, of what it's like to actually go to Turkey for such a thing.
No, I think it's great. It's a great idea, and you know what? To tell you, it's unique. It's something that no one has ever done before. So I'm excited about putting it on Bald Truth Talk as well. So
thank you.
You got it, man. All right, guys, we are going to close up shop. Joe Tillman, thank you so much for hanging out. We'll talk soon.
My pleasure.
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
The websites, thebaldtruth.com for archived shows of this broadcast. You could also go to GFQ Network to check out the archives. And, of course, you can download the program through iTunes. We have I can't even tell you how many people actually are downloading the audio version as well as the video version through iTunes. So that's a good option as well. If you want to interact with other hair loss sufferers through our message form, you can go to baldtruthtalk.com if you want to get some, basic information and also some detailed information about hair loss and the prevention and treatment of hair loss. Check out AmericanHairLoss.org. Again, that's AmericanHairLoss.org. That's the site for the American Hair Loss Association. And if you're considering surgical hair restoration, please Again, surgery is always a last resort, but if you're going to have surgery, check out the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. These are, incredibly skilled and vetted surgeons. So, in my view, it really should be your first place to start doing your due diligence when you're considering surgical hair restoration. That is IAHRS.org. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.